Is Maine's housing market starting to shift? From skyrocketing inventory in towns like Wells to longer days on market in York County, and the surprising median price drops across the state, like in places like Saco, the March 2025 numbers are telling a bigger story. Whether you're waiting to get into the market as a buyer or you're looking for that proper moment to get in as a seller, wondering if now is the time, this update breaks down what is really happening in some of Maine's most talked about markets. So guys, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, grab a pen and paper. We're going to get after that right now. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel, you don't know who I am, haven't seen any of my other videos, my name is Scott Tebow. I'm a realtor broker with eXp Realty here at Live Life in Maine, which is a company that I started. I'm a consultant, I'm an investor, I own some properties myself. I also own a business outside of my 4 real estate companies that I'll do different things. But more importantly than that, guys, I'm a husband, I'm a father of 5, grandfather of 3. I'm a veteran, I'm a patriot, and I'm a son of Maine. What does son of Maine mean? It means somebody that was born and raised here. And I was born and raised here in 1967, grew up in Saco, Maine, left right out of high school in '86, saw the world, joined the military, came back, and about 10 years later, 95, 96, and I've been back ever since, and I just love living here in Maine. You know, after seeing much of the world and living in other parts of the country, I really got an appreciation of what Maine had to offer compared to what I thought it was when I was growing up, thinking this was too small of a state and too slow. You realize after you go out and see the world and explore things, and obviously as you get older and more experience, you know, I talk to my kids, you know, what they have on their, what their superpower is, they got time, right? My superpower is I have wisdom, and you can only get wisdom from getting older, right? So I don't make any bones about it. I'm 57. I'm kind of on the other side of the last career, which is this real estate. I've been doing this since 2013, and I just love working in the real estate industry, especially with buyers and sellers, helping them navigate the maze, helping them get to a successful closing, and understanding all the traps and trials and tribulations they can get into without some professional consultation. So that's what I do. Like I said today, guys, I'm a little late. I was in Canada last week at a conference, but it's the second week of April, and I'm coming to you with the March 2025 update from much of the state. I pick out 5 counties. I'm going to go top to bottom this time: Penobscot, Kennebec, Androscoggin, Cumberland, and York. And then if you're a seller out there and you're watching this as well, I also kind of do a little deeper dive in some of the markets in York County, especially along the coast: Saco, Biddeford, Kennebunkport, and Wells. And just to give you an idea of what's going on in those markets. But as always, guys, I'm here as a resource. I'm here to help educate you or give you knowledge. So if you like what you hear, if you like this channel, please help me keep it going. Not that I make a ton of money from YouTube, because I think I've made a whopping $130. It's not about that. It's really just about giving value and helping you guys understand the real estate market. In case you are looking to invest, buy, or sell in the state of Maine, I can be a resource for you. And obviously, I'd love to work with you if it's possible. So let's get into it, guys. First, I like to look at the entire state of Maine, just to give you an idea of what's happening in the entire state of Maine, or what did happen in March of 2025. So I'm going to throw up on my screen now Maine, and I took all the highlights of the data that I get right from the multiple listing service, and this is only for single family homes. This is for the month of March 2025 in Maine. And you can see it's kind of still a seller's market. What makes something a seller's market, a balanced market, or a buyer's market is really months of inventory, really. So to have a balanced market, you really want to have inventory that's 6, 9 months, 6, 7, 8, 9 months is a balanced market. Anything over 9 months, it's a buyer's market, right? There's more inventory than there are buyers. And obviously, when inventory is short or inventory is tight, it's a seller's market, because it's all about supply and demand, right? Economics 101, if you will. But looking at the March 2025 update, you'll see some key details. Months of inventory across the state for the month of March was 3.52 months 30, 60, 90, about 115 days, 110 days in general. That's actually down from 3.76 months last month. Now, I want you to understand it's also seasonal. So as you follow me and you follow this channel, you'll see that those numbers will change as we get into warmer weather, and especially in the summer and in the fall. And then they'll stop peeling back here in the winter. Again, this is March, so we're kind of coming out of winter in the beginning of spring. List to sold, that means what sellers wanted versus what was accepted and finally closed. They accepted 98.3% of what their asking price was. This is up from 97.6% last month. Average days on market, like I just said, 3.52 was months of inventory, but days on market is different. So average days on market is 59. That means when you put something on the market, you put a house on the market, if you're a seller out there, on average in the state of Maine, between going through inspections and all that and getting it to close, was 59 days. And last month in February, it was 61 days. So that's down a little bit too. So that's good if you're a seller. Number of sold listings were up in the month of March for Maine. 848 were sold across the entire state compared to 739 in February of last month, 2025. In the median sold price, so people ask me, why median, why not average? And I think average skews the numbers. People always ask me, what's the average price of homes in Maine? I don't like to give that number because it kind of gives you a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a real good understanding of the market. I like to use median, and median means it's right in the middle, right? Half the houses are higher and half the houses are lower. So the median price for a home across the entire state of Maine in March of 2025 was $376,261, which is down from February, surprisingly, which was $381,750. And there's a total of 2,983 listings on the market, or was at the end of March, compared to in February was 2,840. So that's up. You're starting to see inventory levels creep up across the state, and not just across the state, but across the country. Now, what I did on the left-hand side is there's other data that you can pull, and that is what is the median estimated value of homes in Maine. This isn't what they sold for. This is what they're going for. This like, what's the value of your home, right? And if you take all the homes across the entire state of Maine and you divide the sum into the whole, you're going to get this $345,000 in the median average value of a home. Now, obviously, York County, Cumberland County, Southern Maine, it's not even close to that. But you get up into northern Maine, or Aroostook County, or up in the upper parts of Penobscot or Somerset or Piscataquis, that's a lot less than that. So it balances out, right? Last month, it went down. So the median average in last month was greater than the median average in March. So it went down 2.7%. But the biggest number you got to really look at, in my opinion, isn't anything that happens on a monthly basis. It's what's the trends, what's it looking like, a year-by-year snapshot, right? So if you look at a year-by-year snapshot, in general, if you were to own a home in Maine 12 months ago, that house appreciated by 7.8% in value, which is a good thing, right? You're growing equity in your home. It's a good thing. And then that chart in the middle, looks like a bunch of ski slopes. That's what has sold, the prices that have sold across Maine, right? So it's different than median estimated value. That's price trends. That means what has everything sold for, the median price sold for. And I give you that because you can see in March of 2025 how it's way down, went down from February, went down from January, was spiked in December, right? Dropped in November, way up high in, September? If I look at that, so that's kind of the median prices of homes across the state of Maine over the last 12 months. And you can see how the home prices are starting to slide a little bit, but it's also seasonal. I want to emphasize that, right? Things in the winter don't sell for as much or as high as they do in the summertime. And ironically, the best time to sell a house in Maine is kind of the second or third quarter in Maine. That's really around July right through, I'm going to say, Halloween. The worst time to sell a house, if you're a seller, is in January, February, and then starting to come out of it in March, which is obviously just the opposite if you're a buyer, right? If you're a buyer, you have a lot more competition in those summer months and those fall months. You have less competition in the winter months. However, you also have less inventory. So you gotta understand what makes sense for you. We evaluate all those options when you partner with us and try to help you find a home, or we help you sell your home. So that's Maine in general. Now I'm going to throw up on the screen. So again, I take 5 counties first, and I take these counties because in these counties are the largest metropolitan areas. So the first one I'm throwing up here is Penobscot. So I'm going to go from north to south this time. I usually go from south to north, but I'm going to go from north to south. And the reason why I choose Penobscot County is that's where Bangor Brewer is. And Bangor is the 3rd largest metropolitan area in Maine. And then you got right around Bangor, you got Orono, and you got all those places right around Bangor that kind of drives the Bangor market. So looking at the Bangor market, seller's market still 3.06 months of inventory, which is down just a little bit from February of 3.08. Same thing here, list the sold price. Sellers agreed to 96.8% less. They sold their house for 96.8% less. Oh, that's wrong. They sold their house for 96.8% of what they were asking, not less, because that would have been like 3.2%, right? That's a great deal. No, they got 96.8% for what they were asking, which is down from 97.2% in February. Average days on market, 64. Again, took 64 days from when they put the house on the market to when a buyer got the keys. This is up from 57 in the month of in the month of February. Number of sold listings, there was 104 in Penobscot County compared to 100 in February. Median sold price, right? Half the houses are higher, half the houses are lower. 262,500 in the month of March, which is down, 18,000, 62, 72, 82, no, 28,000, 27.5 from February, which is 290,000. And then number of active listings, 318 compared to 308 in February. So you guys can look at that median price and see, wow, that's quite a big drop. But again, it's seasonal. You really want to look at the trends over a year. So first of all, let's talk about the value of homes in the Penobscot County. The median estimated value of a home, not what it's sold for again, just the value of it. Forget you're going to put it on the market. Just what it's worth, median, right? Half the houses are worth more, half the houses are worth less. In the month of March was 290,000. This is down a little bit less than 1%, 0.92. But overall, if you look at the change, if you owned a house in Penobscot County and you bought it in March of 2024, in general, your house would have appreciated 11.54%. And again, if you look at those price trends, skyrocketing, they really bumped up from May all the way up. If you look at from April to May, you see that big spike and then a kind of steady decrease. And then you saw another spike. And again, right, October, November, December, then dropped down in January, a little bit in February, and then dropped way down in March. Kind of the market. That's seasonal inventory there. That's people not putting their houses on the market, or, buyers waiting to get some deals. But that's Penobscot County, kind of the Bangor area. Moving down the coast, guys, and the next one I choose is Kennebec County. Kennebec County is where you have Augusta, where you have Waterville. I call it kind of the Lakes region. It's just we call it the center of the state, but if you look on a map, it's not really. If you look at Maine, you could lop off much of it up north, because there's nothing up there unless you're on the east where Presque Isle is, and Holton and Caribou. But between Fort Kent and I'm going to say Bangor, forgive me guys for all you people that live in that part of the Mount Katahdin, that area, there's not much up there. But that being said, in the Augusta area, Kennebec County area, months of inventory 3.54, coming up a little bit, up a little higher than it was in February of 3.10. Now here, sellers are getting pretty much what they're asking for, 100.3%, which is up from 97.1% in February. Average days on market, look at that. Things really were selling quicker up there. 37 days compared to 60 in February. Number of listings sold down a little bit from February, 65 to 70. Median sold price, again, I'm going to keep on repeating this, guys. Median means half the houses are more and half the houses are less. If you were to buy a house in kind of Kennebec County, the median sale price, the middle of the range, would be $345,000, which is up from $302,900 in February. And right now, well, as in the end of March 31st, there were 230 listings compared to 217 last month. And again, if you look at the median estimated value of homes in Kennebec County, it's $300,862, up almost a third of a point. And overall, if you bought a house in Kennebec County a year ago, you've seen an increase of about 3.9% in equity. And again, if you look at that price trend chart, holy smokes, look at from December to January, how the bottom just fell out, right? Kind of increasing, kind of dipped in July, increase in August, September, October, little dip in November around Thanksgiving, went back up around before Christmas, and then just the bottom fell out in January. Now it's starting to make a comeback, right? It just shows the seasonality of the real estate market in Maine and what, a lot of stuff isn't happening. We did have a tougher winter up here than we've had in the last 5 years too, with a lot more snow and cold than we have been used to. Kind of like when I was a kid, honestly, is the kind of winter we just came out of. It's been a while since I remember having 2 or 3 feet of snow on the ground, at least in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And we had that this year, even in southern Maine, which is predominantly dominated by the ocean. All right, let's move down to Androscoggin County. So we're still kind of coming down, right? We started in Penobscot, came across west into Kennebec County, which is all Augusta, and we're still coming down. Now we're in Androscoggin County, which is where you're going to find Lewiston and Auburn. Lewiston, big mill town, second largest metropolitan area in Maine. A lot of activity for sellers in there because you can tell months of inventory, 1.47 months. Definitely a seller's market in Lewiston, Auburn. This is down from 1.86 months in the month of February. And sellers are getting a little bit more than they were asking, 102.5%. Again, a little bit up from what it was in February, 101%. Average days on market kind of makes sense. 33 days. You put a house on the market, it was off the market in 33 days compared to 36, which is even, from a seller, when you see these, it's good for you. For a buyer, it means it's getting more competitive. 36 days in February. So more sellers are coming onto the market now. 62 sold in February, in March compared to 44 in February. And the median sold price, $337,750. That's up, 20,000 almost, 20,250 from the month of February. And as I said, you're seeing more sellers coming on market. Inventory is rising a little bit, I should say, 91 compared to 82 in the month of February. And again, value of homes, not what they sold for, $316,060. That's the median. Did drop, right? You lost about 1.55% equity in your home from March, between March and February. But overall, you've gained about 2.9% in value in equity over the last 12 months. And if you look at those price trends right in the middle, man, that's a quite expansive kind of chart and what's going on. It's really up and down in Lewiston, Auburn, and in Androscoggin County, right? Started out on fire in March, dropped. This is 2024. Dropped in April, made a comeback in February, June, came down a little bit in July and August, spiked again in September, really dropped in October, came up a little bit in November, dropped down in December, spiked up a little bit in January, dropped down in February. I mean, this is a yo-yo. I'm going to say Androscoggin County is a yo-yo market right now. That's not an official term, but it's a yo-yo market according to these trends and what's going on in housing prices. Really hard to predict, it looks like. Now we're going to go to Cumberland County. Coming down the coast, you're coming into Cumberland County. This is Greater Portland area. This is the most populous county in the state of Maine. It's where, again, Portland is, and the outskirts of Portland. You got South Portland, Westbrook. You got Brunswick. You got Freeport. You got Cape Elizabeth. You got Yarmouth. you got all those kind of higher end markets right around Portland. Months of inventory, 2.30. Seller's market, not crazy like Androscoggin, but it's a seller's market. That is up from 1.82 in the month of February. List of sold, again, right what they're asking, 100.3. County can't ask for much, or anything from 99.8 to 100.3 or 4 is right around what you're getting for asking price, which is up a little bit, but kind of still getting from asking price in February, which is 99.4. Average days on market, 39 compared to 43, came down a little bit. Number of sold listings, 149, came down from 159 in February. Median sold price, $548,500. This is where you start getting into the expensive Maine, anything along the coast, compared up from $526,500 in the month of February. There are currently 300, again, end of March it was, 343 active listings compared to 290 at the end of February. And again, the median estimated value, you own a house in Cumberland County, median, right? Not up here and not down here. Median, $558,580, up 0.6% from the month prior. And average, you've gained equity of about 5.3% over the last 12 months, even with higher interest rates, or high interest rates, less inventory, the uncertainty in the markets, a new election, tariffs, whatever else it is, you've seen the value still increase. And then that chart in the middle, look at what happened. It steadily climbed, steadily climbed, steadily climbed. And then August up there, and then it fell. September really fell from September to November. Spiked up in December, and then just, you're right off a cliff. As Cumberland County goes, you're at 615,000, dropped all the way down, almost 100,000, a little less than 100,000. So I'm going to call that 525 in February, coming back a little bit in March. Again, seasonality of the market in Maine. That's Cumberland County, Maine's largest and most populous county. And then the last county that I'm going to review for you guys is York County. This is the county that I live in. This is the first county you come into in the state of Maine when you come from New Hampshire. This is kind of what I call the beach county. This is where all the sandy beaches are. When you get up past Scarborough, when you start getting into Portland and up along the coast, you're going to get a lot less sandy beaches. There's little inlets and stuff that have sand, but not like the long, flat, sandy beaches that you have in York County along the Scarborough, Orchard Beach, Saco, Wells, Gunquit, down that way. You have those long beaches that are really sandy that a lot of people flock to in the summertime. Especially, we get a lot of Canadian tourists here in the summertime because of those beaches, and York County is no exception. Very, very popular place to vacation. If you're from Canada, and then anywhere along the coast, there's a lot of people that go to, obviously, Bar Harbor, which is further up down east, or Booth Bay Harbor, any of those places along the coast. But York County, months of inventory, 3.12, up from 2.96 last month. List of sold, a little bit higher than they asked. Now I got 1% more, 101 compared to 99.4 last month, the month of February. Days on market, 32. Things are moving faster compared to 48 in February. The number of sold listings, 121, down 2 listings from 123 in February. Median sold price, $572,432, which is higher than Cumberland County, ironically. And one of the reasons why that is because of its, York County, the proximity to New Hampshire, Boston, the weather, the beaches, a little higher prices in York County right now compared to Cumberland County in terms of median sale. But that's even down from 589,787 last month. And there are currently 378 listings on the market. There was at the end of March compared to 364. That arrow should be wrong. It should be up, not down. My bad, missed it. But more active listings in the month of March than there was in the month of February. And then median values of homes in York County on average, $507,990, an increase of 0.5%. And overall, the market has appreciated in York County 4.8%. Again, price trends in the middle. You see really after November, October, November, things start dipping down. Yeah, they do spike up, little Christmas presents, I guess, gifts or whatever in December. And then they really start to fall off in the winter months because due to seasonality, the weather, the snow. Again, York County. I love living in Maine. York County is where I live. There's a number of reasons I live here. Obviously, I grew up here, so I'm very familiar with the area. The beaches. You know, it's interesting. I don't go in the ocean that much, but I can't be away from it, right? I just can't. And my dog, who's actually outside, I forgot she's outside right now. My dog loves running on the beach in the wintertime, and you're allowed to take your dogs on the beach and run on the beach and chase the ball. There are ordinances, though you can't do it after, like, I think May 15th to August because of the birds, the pipers that are on the beach. So you have to have your dog on a leash. But during those months you don't, and my dog runs crazy and just loves it. She could be out there all day. Unbeknownst to me, I can't. It gets kind of cold and windy in the middle of winter on the beach in Maine, but it's so peaceful and tranquil. I mean, I did shoot a couple of videos. Maybe I'll post those in another video of what it's like to be on the beach in Maine in the wintertime. Because it is just, the quality of life and the peacefulness is so just, the only word I can use is zenful. And I don't even know if that's a word. All right, guys. So now what I'm going to do, because I live in this county, this is more for your sellers out there. But buyers, you still want to know what's going on. I'm going to tell you what's going on in Saco, Biddeford, Kennebunkport, and Wells. Those are kind of the 4 biggest beach towns and towns south of Portland. Scarborough you could throw in there too, but I didn't do Scarborough. I do Saco because I grew up in Saco. A lot of people moved to Saco because 2 reasons: the community, the beaches, and because of Thornton Academy, which is a semi-private public school. So if you live in Saco, you get to go to Thornton Academy, which is Maine's largest high school now. It's one of the most largest prestigious high schools. If you don't live in Saco or Arundel or Dayton and you still want to go to Thornton, you can, but it costs money. So your parents got to pay for you to go there. And they have a pretty good size foreign exchange students, international students. I think it makes up 12-15% of their enrollment. So you're getting a lot of culture changes, a lot of culture mix in at Thornton Academy. And they are predominantly state champions in many sports. They just won it this year in hockey. I think that, they lost the state championship game in football. They're right there all the time and from a sports and athletics perspective, as well as academia. So great school. I'm a little biased. I went to Thornton as well, but it has changed a lot since I went there. So probably not comparing apples to apples. Months of inventory in the great city of Saco, Maine is 3.43, which is up from 2.71 in February. List is sold right around what they're asking, 99.7 compared to 101.3 in February. Things are going pretty fast. Days on the market 18 in the month of March compared to February of 32. Number of sold listings balanced out 7, right? Not a ton of activity in March. Only 7 properties sold. Out of 24 that were on the market and 19 last month. And the median sold price in Saco in March was $468,500 compared to $577,800 in February. It's quite a drop. It's really because there's probably some lingering inventory left over from the end of 2024 that finally closed in 2025, I'm going to say in February, which was, you can see those spikes of those housing November and January. See how that went up. But overall it dropped a little bit, but still $468,500 median price. You know, I know the average price in Saco is probably more like $580 to $600, but this is just the median price, the difference between the highest and the lowest. Estimated values of homes in Saco, median estimated values, say $530,600, up 0.5%. From the month prior in February. And overall, if you lived in Saco, your home appreciated 5.1% in the last 12 months. And then if you look at that chart again, some pretty big peaks and valleys. Look at the peak in, what month is that? The peak in September, right? And one of the reasons why it's interesting why you have a peak in September, I'm talking about Thornton Academy, right? A lot of people try to get to Saco if they're going to move there prior to the school year. So that's why you see That's one of the reasons why you see a pretty big peak there. And then you see the drop off in December, from November, December, really after Thanksgiving to Christmas. Then after Christmas, it starts coming up, right? January's got a pretty good month. February had a pretty good month. Dropped off again in March. I don't know if that's more what's going on in the markets, which if you look at all these, most of them dropped off in March. It does seem like it's kind of has to do with what's going on in the market and the current state of our politics, if you will. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just kind of prognosticating. Biddeford, so you got Saco, and you got right over the river in Saco, you got the Saco River. You got Biddeford, which is just south of Saco. Another coastal town that I live in, 1.73 months of inventory, definitely a seller's market. A lot of activity in Biddeford. It's one of those markets that's just exploding. It's had a renaissance. You had a bunch of mills that got redeveloped. I was responsible for one of them. Partly responsible for one of them. I often say I and two others are the reason why Biddeford is really on a renaissance and really starting to rival Portland in terms of rents and in terms of stuff that's going on. It's not as big as Portland. It never probably will be. But the food scene, the people moving here, the industry, the businesses, really since these mills got redeveloped, is just Biddeford is exploding. Listed sold price 99.7%, down from 104% in February. Days on market 22. So in Biddeford, you're going to make an offer. You're going to close on it quick. 35 last month. Number of sold listings 19. 3 of those are mine, by the way, in February compared to 22 last month. Median sold price $485,000, which is up from $462,500 in February. And active number of active listings 23 in the month of March compared to 24 last month. 2 of those are mine. Median estimated value $488,720, grew 1.4%, and the market hasn't really appreciated that fast. Only about 1% as housing prices have kind of somewhat, I'm going to say values have kind of somewhat remained flat, right? They're kind of, in my opinion, they may start ticking up a little bit, but they're not going to spike anymore. We're kind of as close to the top of the market for the area and for what's in the area that I think Biddeford can be at. I'm not saying it's not going to continue to appreciate, because I believe they will. But for the most part, you're not going to see these large spikes like you did a few years ago when the market was really undervalued, at least the real estate market in Maine. I've said this before. Maine's real estate market from 2019 to 2024 increased 78.5%. And I'm going to make a correction. I thought it was the largest increase in the country, but actually Idaho went up 80%. So those are some crazy numbers, right? Most markets were appreciating 10, 12, 15, 78.5% for Maine, which tells you 2 things. A lot of people have discovered Maine and the quality of life and what you get out of Maine. And you do have people moving here, and you do have housing values going up. But it also tells you there's not enough inventory. And you watch one of my other videos, we're like 80,000 houses behind what the market needs, and they're supposedly supposed to catch it by 2030, but we need to really pick up building, because we're not maintaining the numbers to get to that 80,000 by 2030 if we keep on going in the trends we're going. Kennebunkport, I throw this in here because, you got kind of 2 really ritzy areas in Maine. When I say ritzy, over $1 million properties, easy. You got around the Mount Desert Island, Bar Harbor area. That's further up the coast, down east, about 3 hours from here. And then you got Kennebunkport, which is right outside of Kennebunk, a little less than 45 minutes into the state. It's where you have the Walker's Point, which is the Bush compound. You have a little village right there. It's not really getting that little. It's getting bigger now, but you have all kinds of these boutique shops and restaurants and stuff. You got a marina, and they're coming in on the river, and you got a lot of wealthy houses and wealthy individuals that live in Kennebunkport. That being said, because there's not that much inventory and the houses are pricey, it takes, there's about 5.5 months of inventory, which is kind of a balanced market from a seller and a buyer, which is down from 6.87% last month in February. list is sold. So, sellers are putting the house on the market and they're taking a 10% haircut, roughly 90.9 in March compared to 93.9 in February. Average days on market. So what you're seeing in Kennebunkport, you see a lot of cash deals because when you're getting up to these prices, most people are buying these homes that are either second-time home buyers or they're executives or they've sold a business or they own businesses and they got cash reserves and they're making these cash sales. Probably why the sold price is 10% off because it's a cash deal. A lot easier to deal with the cash than when you got contingencies around financing. So 23 days on market, which is up from 18 in the month of February. Only 4 sold listings in Kennebunkport in the month of March compared to 3 in the month of February. And again, the median sold price among those 4 listings was $1,350,000. Yeah, that's totally, I forgot a zero, but it should be $1,350,000, which is up from $1,075,000 in the month of March. And right now there's only 22 active listings on the market compared to 20 in the month of February. And again, if you look at the median value of homes, right? So right in the middle, $1,176,900 is what the average median price of a home is. That's kind of an oxymoron, right? Not the average. The median price of a home in Kennebunkport is $1,176,900, which means that the average price of a home is probably closer to $2 million. That's an increased median price of 0.4% and 12-month change on the median. Never mind the average is almost 10%, 9.1%. But if you look at the price trends, right, you see really, really high last March, right? Kind of stayed up there, dropped a little bit in April, went back up in May, started falling down through the summer months, June, July, August. And that's really because it's really a vacation spot. So you see a lot of sellers trying to get their places sold before summer hits. And the reason why that is mostly is because when summer hits, if they don't live there and they're not enjoying the spectacular weather and everything that Kennebunkport has to offer, they're renting out Airbnb or having monthly rentals. A lot of demand for people wanting to stay in Kennebunkport in the summertime. So houses don't sell as fast. And then you see that starts to changing in September, spikes, October, get it. You get these high net worth individuals that are looking to buy houses. You're right, they kind of want to get in there before Thanksgiving, definitely before the holidays, have maybe skiing season, right? Let's go to Maine and have Thanksgiving in Maine with the snow potentially falling. Definitely the leaves all change. Maybe we can go skiing. So you see October, then you start to come in at Thanksgiving, the market just drops, kind of stays flat December, starts increasing a little bit January, February, and March, where those people that didn't sell their houses last year, putting them back on the market to see if they can capture the rise of the inventory and buyers before the summer hits again and it starts all over again. That is the reciprocal market in general in Kennebunkport, Maine. I'm working with a buyer right now. We're looking at like to build a house with a lot, kind of 1.7 million all in, which for Kennebunk's perspective is higher than median, but you're not paying what the average is. Not too far off, but still, if you're gonna live in Kennebunkport, you better bring some Benjamins with you because it's expensive living in Kennebunkport. I love to go to Kennebunkport for dinner or to hang out with friends at the Pilot House or Arundel Wharf or some of the other Allison's or some of the other restaurants there. It's great vibes, great area, great place to hang out. Expensive to live there, though. And then the last town I do is Wells. So Wells is south of Kennebunkport. I do Wells for a couple of reasons. Number one, big beach community. It's in southern Maine, long beaches. It's kind of two different markets. So you got right along the ocean. Like you got to kind of go through a marsh and you come out onto, I think it's Atlantic Way, and you got all these houses that are just like there's like this much room between them, right on the ocean. And then you got the whole housing market right after, which is really close before the marsh. And you got a ton of houses down there, right? And seasonal, or sometimes people live there full time. And then you come off there, you come up to Route 1 and further west, and you got more kind of the typical Maine house or Maine people that are living there full time. But look at the months of inventory. From March, essentially nothing was moving. From March to February, 22.33 months. That's the highest I've ever seen in any single month in any town, county, city, township, territory I've ever seen in Maine since I've been in real estate since 2013 as a realtor. Huge buyer's market in February. March. If you were going to buy a house in March, you pretty much, you didn't have much competition. However, you paid the price because these houses sold for 3 of them. There was only 3 houses that sold in the month of March. And on average, those 3 houses closed for 106.2% over what they were asking for, which is up from 98.6% in February. Took about 60 days to close on those houses compared to 40 in the month of February. Again, only 3 sold compared to February was 9. The median sold price, $670,700, higher than Saco, higher than Biddeford, higher than in York County in general, higher than in Cumberland County in general, compared to 600 in the month of February. But why there's so much inventory is you got a lot of activity. You got 67 active listings on the market right now. What they do is, how long would it take 3, if the average assumption rate was 3, and you had 67 listings, kind of how they figure it out, right? How long would it take those 67 active listings to be sold if you were only selling 3 a month? Those numbers are a little jaded, honestly, because when I give you this report next month, I bet you're going to see the months of inventory back down probably between 5 and 6, maybe even lower than that as we start heating up in the summer months. That being said, the median estimated value in a house in Wells, which again, there should be 2 markets here, but I just did it as one, $573,650, up 0.9% from last month, but down. Another thing, I haven't seen this trend, down 1.6% in equity over the last 12 months in Wells. So really, what Wells is kind of like a unicorn. It's like that. It's like a rainbow that you can't catch. You got really 2 different markets. So looking at my camera, you got the coast and you got these houses right on the coast, and they're high demand, high pricing. You come up about a quarter of a mile, and then you got Route 1, and you got all those houses along Route 1 and further west. I know I'm doing it backwards because on your camera it's going to look like I'm looking in the ocean, but on your video. But further west, you got a lot more housing and more developments being built, and those housing prices come down compared to the closer you get to the coast of Maine. Guys, that's kind of the market update for March 2025 in general across the state. If you have a county that you want to know about, let me know. I can shoot it off to you real quick. I've been trying to keep these videos shorter. I see that my average attention span is like 8 minutes and my videos are longer. So I don't know what people are watching, what they're not. So I'm kind of shortening it. I don't know if I lose people when I do the whole state. But if you want something, just let me know. I'll send it to you for the month of March, or where things are right now, maybe in your town or in your county. I say your, not York County. That's why I'm here. I'm just here for a resource, guys. And look, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, send me a call. Send me a text. Call me. You can book a Zoom call on Calendly. I haven't been keeping up to date with it, but if you're going to do that, kind of give me 48-hour notice so I can look at it. I always block off 3 to 4, but like last week, I was in Canada and I didn't realize I had 2 Zoom calls booked to talk, and I missed it, but we caught up after the fact. But best thing to do is send me a text and just tell me what you're trying to do, and maybe we can set up a time to chat and see if it's a good fit and see what you're looking for. I do this all the time, guys. I do this for a lot of people. I got people calling me from all over the state and all over the country, you know, want to chat. How do they get to Maine? What's prices looking like in Maine? Will I work with them? What's my fees? How's the process work? And I get it, guys. If you're moving here from out of state and you're not right, like in New Hampshire or Vermont or even Massachusetts, it can be a little bit daunting, right? Where do you begin? Where do you start? How do you go through the maze, right? So that's what I'm here for. That's what I'll help you with. And I have a little bit of a team helping me too behind the scenes. So if you're interested, then, you know, send me a text, give me a call. And then if you're looking to sell, guys, got a huge following now. I wouldn't say huge. I get 100,000 views a month, which, you know, I'm no Mr. Beast or whatever. I got like, I don't know, 2,600 subscribers. I get a lot of comments, a lot of emails, a lot of text on a weekly basis on wanting to know about Maine and what's available. So if you're looking to sell, that's another marketing tool that I can bring to the equation. Where ironically, there's not a ton of realtors, at least that I find in Maine, doing this. Right? Eventually, I guess they're going to catch up. But of the older school realtors that I talk to, right, kind of my age, they're not into it. They're kind of old school. They've done it their way for the last 20, 25 years. But, you know, when you're trying to reach new people, new buyers, you know, YouTube and social media is definitely one of the ways to go. So just let's have a conversation, see if it makes sense. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul, right? I'm totally transparent and I'm not here to sell you. I'm really not. You either want to work with me or you don't, based upon my personality, based upon my beliefs and the way I operate. And if it's not a good fit, it's no harm, no foul, right? Maybe I can put you in touch with somebody that is a good fit for. Haven't had that much of a problem so far that way, but you know, I'm fair, and I can't work with everybody. I only work with. It's kind of getting up there now, but I said I'm not going to work with more than 25, 27, 30 at the most clients in a year, right? If I do 30 transactions in a year, that's a lot for a solo agent. And so I do have a team behind me, but when I say solo, it's because I'm involved in the transaction. I'm involved in everything from beginning to end. I'm a big believer of keeping the ball in my court. And I want to be involved. And I don't want to have to call you and say, I don't know what happened, or I don't know where this is, or I don't know what's going on here. I don't want to do that, right? So I want to be intrinsically involved in the entire process, kind of being your bird dog, kind of being your eyes and ears, kind of being your project manager, kind of being your realtor, kind of making sure that when you get here, if you're moving from out of state, it's pretty much turnkey for you. Obviously, we go through the facet of what it takes. I got a buyer right now in Alabama. We're going to an inspection tomorrow, VA buyer. So far, everything's going well. You know, we got to get through the appraisal tomorrow, but that's all the stuff that I manage, and you know, I just keep you guys updated on what's going on. And then, guys, if you're a seller, and you're thinking, is it time now? Should I wait? Is the market going to rise? Is the market coming down? More inventories coming on the market? Am I going to lose value? I want you to understand, no matter what, you're always in control, right? So you may think your house is worth something, and it may be worth more or less. I give you kind of a home equity report as well as a property profile report, more than just comparisons. I'm going to speak to you like you're my neighbor, or you're my friend, or having a cup of coffee. I'm not going to try to sell you on something. You might think your house is worth $2 million, and I might think it's worth $1 million. I don't know. You'll have to convince me why it's worth $2 million. And it could be, you could be saying some things that I'm not aware of, right? Yeah, this is why. And I always ask that question. Why do you think your house is worth more? Don't always, but why do you think your house is worth more than what I see the data to be? And sometimes people have pretty good reasons. The key is I can take the emotion out of it. And when you're dealing, math does not lie. So when I take the emotion out of it, you can either believe me or not believe me. But at the end of the day, my value to you is understanding, if you're a seller, what is the buyer going to be looking at, right? Because at the end of the day, a house is worth nothing. What a house is worth is what somebody is willing to pay for it. So whether you think it's $2 million, $1 million, whatever, It's what a buyer will be willing to pay for it. And realtors can't make stuff out of thin air, right? Because people are getting smarter with the advent of the internet and technology, especially buyers are getting smarter. So you got to have real conversations. I've never been one to take a listing to hope that it'll sell. I don't want to do that. I don't want to not manage your expectations, because I can tell you almost 100% of the time, and you're starting to see it more and more now, they call it price improvements, price improvements, price improvements. What really it is it's an improvement, all right? It's an improvement down. You're seeing a lot of pricing of houses starting to come down as they're sitting on the market too long, and they're starting to get stagnant. And the perception is that buyers like, what's wrong with this house? Is it overpriced, or is there some material defect wrong with the house? You don't want that. I just turned down a listing the other day because the seller wanted way more than I thought the house was worth. And I'm like, I can recommend somebody else, but I'm not going to put my name on it. It wasn't the other day. It was a couple months ago. Well, that house just got a price reduction, still sitting on the market, had 2 showings. At the end of the day, guys, time is money, and I'm here to sell your house, not list your house. I'm here to make you money, or make that transaction as smooth and as seamless as possible for you. I'm not here to try to convince you why you need to work with me, and I'm not here to try to understand why you think the house is worth more than I think it's worth, unless, and I'm going to always leave this caveat, I've missed something, which I've done that a few times. You can say, oh, did you know about this and this and this? To understand the value, I can take the emotion out of it. So I don't know, guys. That's the value of somebody, like I said, wisdom, right? Somebody who's older and been in the market. And, you get some of these young whippersnappers, and don't get me wrong, some of them are really good, right? Some of them are good, but not, they get caught up in the emotion or the high and not really understanding what the true values are. Maybe they're higher, maybe they're lower, but you just got to understand that. And here's the last thing I'm going to say. If you're sellers out there and you've been my age or maybe a little bit younger, the majority of buyers are now younger than us, right? So sure, putting the house on the MLS, doing drone videos and that's all important. But how do you reach those buyers, right? Because where's everybody looking first? They're looking on the internet. I think it's like 98% of buyers go to the internet first, hence the Zillow phenomenon, which is really kind of messing up the market now, because they've opened up with buyer tours and stuff, and you're supposed to be licensed. You're supposed to be under contract before you open a door. But majority of buyers are looking on the internet first, and because they're looking on the internet, they're getting more versed on what's out there, right? So you got to compete with the internet, and one of the ways to do that is have a following. Hire somebody that's got a following. Have somebody that has a pretty good track record, and have somebody that has good testimonials on what they've done for some of their other clients on the sell or buy side, or investors. So I'll get off my soapbox now, guys. Appreciate your time. It's the middle of April. I should have this out in a day or so. It's Thursday, April 10th. I'm hoping to get this out by April 11th. And again, guys, if you like what you're hearing, if you want to know more, subscribe, tap that bell to be the first to be notified when I drop content. I try to do that weekly. And if you have questions, you want to know something specific about anything regarding real estate, whether it's a town, city, your house in general, just send me a text. Is the best thing to do. Phone numbers in my description when I started, or send me an email and I'll get back to you. All right, guys, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully, wherever you are, if you're not in Maine, the weather's nice. The weather's getting nicer up here. Almost golf season. And we'll go from there. Scott Tebow, over and out. Bye-bye.